we received a flyer in the mail from Elevate Life Church, and I set it down on my desk, and I just knew I was pulled to it, and I just knew I needed to use it. At that time, I was in a marriage that was unhealthy. We had fantastic times and horrible times, affairs sprinkled with abuse, and it lasted about 15 years. I decided to go on one Sunday and just check the church out, and I went by myself, and I probably cried the whole service. And I felt like in that moment, everything that the pastor was saying was for me. Like someone had sent him cue cards. This is a girl that's coming to church and she needs these words, because it just pierced my heart. And I just got addicted to the DNA of Elevate Life Church. And I said, this is where we're gonna go. Remember a moment sitting in service and Pastor Keith was preaching on going and moving forward. And it had been a very rough couple of months. And I knew it was time to move forward. And Pastor Keith looked at me directly in the audience and said, it's time to move, it's time to go. And my kids both looked at me and said, he's talking to you. And I was like, I know. And I began the process, and I had some really hard seasons right in those few months. And I knew that this is where we had to be consistently. And this is where we came versus doing anything else. And every week, week after week, healing just continued to come on. And we grew. And I look back over those seasons and say, wow, I raised my kids in church. We had a church home. Because when you believe in God, it doesn't mean that everything's great. It doesn't mean that problems aren't going to stop. It just gives you a foundation and a relationship with Jesus Christ to know that you're going to be okay. And in those moments of where I felt like I was suffocating and scared, I knew I was going to be okay. Last year, I found myself in the midst of a season. And I remember I came to church and I'd had such a rough morning. I think I even put a Facebook post, going to praise him in the storm. And I got to church and I just set everything down. And I heard God say to me, what if to change your life and do a 180, all you have to do is show up 52 times? That this project comes with guarantees, with promises. Show up 52 times and I'm going to meet you where you are. And I was like, 52. It's like 52 weeks. We got to go to church 52 times. And it was such a moment right after worship that I just knew instantly, he's telling me, listen, sit it down, I have a solution. I just need you to be obedient and show up. Launched Project 52 to my kids, told them about it, and we got on board. We were believing for certain things to happen throughout the year, and that God's promise was real, that it's true, and we just started believing it and standing on his word. I was believing for a new job and believing for a certain dollar amount. God showed up and I got the new job. It was that dollar amount for the salary plus bonuses. And I was just like, God, you're so intentional with the little things to let us know this is really you. I was believing for my daughter to really know her self-worth and be strong throughout relationships and make better decisions than I did. And I saw her life do a 180. We were believing for my son to have a record deal, to launch a career in music. And on the brink of the night that he wanted to give up on music, he remembered our purpose and believing, and he was encouraged to pray, and he woke up the next day to a record deal in his email. So to top it off, at the end of the 52 weeks, to the day, the last day of our 52 weeks, I was standing on stage worshiping Jesus with my son. Both of us standard bearers, sharing a platform in which just a year prior, I was in the crowd worshiping and believing for God to do some miracles in my life. And he showed up, and he showed up big, consistently. I can tell you a million different stories, basically, that happened throughout the year. And I know one day I will, because Project 52, it's going somewhere else. But I think the most important thing about this is to know that God meets you where you are. God is good all the time. throughout all your different seasons. And when he places something on your heart, he's going to show up. But it's up to us to take a step forward and step out from where we are and our thoughts and our processes and jump into his lane and say, okay, God, let's roll. I trust you. I'm going to be consistent and show up. And that's what we did 52 times.